Can't get enough of that new intro. Love that one. Welcome back to the World Championship Series 2014. It is the Europe Premier League, of course, having already had our first game of the round of 16. Joined once more, this time by Apollo. We've both got a bit of illness going on right now.
Yeah, we sound very similar.
We do.
Very sniffly and blocked.
I think we could probably audition for the, one world.
Yes.
One man.
Yes.
Yeah, we could probably audition for that because unfortunately he passed away.
Syncing it together would be pretty good.
Yeah. So we're going to get into our next game in just a moment, but let's just give you, if you are just joining us, the overview from Group A. These four players, MVP already taking down Bunny in the first game, and VortiX and MMA. It really is, Sean, a terrific group to kick off the round of 16. Couldn't have asked for any better, really. Yeah,
couldn't have asked for a better group. I think we could have asked for maybe a better series to kick off the day because it wasn't the best of the best we could have seen. But for the next one that we're coming into, I have absolutely high expectations that this is going to be one to remember.
Yeah, okay. Just to confirm for you, on the bracket right now, MVP is through to the winner's game, and he will play the winner of our next match, which is MMA versus VortiX. If you're not familiar with it, it is WCS GSL style brackets, dual tournament format. 2 wins and you are through, which means MMA and VortiX right now. You mentioned it. We had a bit of a bop, as Artosis would like to call it, in the first game. I don't think we're going to see the same thing here. These two, very evenly matched on paper. They've already met this week. They've already played this week in the Vasicast. We saw VortiX come out on top. A little bit different because it's online and now we're on land. So, a little bit different in terms of atmosphere and pressure and what have you. But VortiX has got to be buoyed from what he did in that competition, right?
Yeah, he's got to be very confident, and especially there's 2 ways to look at it, because as a Zerg, you play a reactionary style, so you go into the match online without too much to show, because what are you really meant to hide when you're a reactionary player? So it's MVP that is going to show the cards if he's going to show any. But the one thing that you can look at as maybe a benefit from that is that maybe MMA spotted something despite losing, a potential weakness that could be still exploited here. So even though this is the reactionary Zerg player was the guy that's reacting, this could be still different.
Okay, it's interesting that we've talked about this in previous seasons, particularly with TLO, in fact, and it's interesting that he's got 3 of the same race against him again. Last time around it was 3 Terrans, this time around it's 3 Protoss. In a similar kind of way, it's easier for VortiX to practice because he can play a number of different builds, knowing that all his ZVT strategies aren't going to get revealed in one tournament. So do you think he's got that in his pocket, or do you think actually he's still kind of restricted, having played Vasicast so close to WCS?
I think that he can't really show too many tricks today in terms of things that could catch his opponent off, because we could see potential of 9 different games he could play today if he plays all 3 series, all 3 maps. But his style is so solid overall, I don't think it matters. He beat MMA pretty much just straight up clean up, just straight normal games, and took it the distance. And I definitely think he can repeat that again. Okay,
head to head, these two are pretty close. It's 3-2 to MMA right now in sets, 8-5 overall in maps. Interestingly as well, if you look at the statistics, I don't want to go down this too long, but MMA, his best matchup overall in Heart of the Swarm, TVZ.
Yeah.
VortiX's best matchup in Heart of the Swarm, ZVT. So neither of them are going to give a quarter here.
No, this is actually, aside from the MMA MVP potential we could see, this is definitely up there as a massive match. They have played a lot. They've played a lot recently. If you remember back to when Season 3, when MMA won, VortiX was on fire in that Season 2, and actually in the semi-final, MMA beat him 3-0, right here, right up there on that stage. So it's potential we could see something like that again. But VortiX just has so much momentum behind him right now. He really is playing some of the best StarCraft. Okay. And I remember the quote, actually, before you go on, in the round of 32, he said that each season he did last year, he got better and better and better. And I said, what are you doing this year? And he's like, well, I'm going to the final or winning a season this year.
Yeah, and he would be the first non-Korean to win a WCS regional title if he were to win one. He'd only be the 2nd European to get to a final. We only did Stefano last year. So big shoes to fill for the Spaniard. He is one of only 6 men to have qualified for all 4 Premier Leagues across WCS Europe, and only one of 2 men to make it to the round of 16 in each of the 4 seasons we've had. The other man is MMA. Yep, that's right. The 2 guys go head-to-head next with Kalaris and Latod.
Thank you very much, gents. Welcome to the caster's desk. And personally, I am very, very excited for this one. A real clash of the titans for me in my mind. How about you, Todd?
Yeah, I think so too. Both of these players are playing very well lately. MMA flying a little bit more under the radar than VortiX. VortiX it kind of feels like he doesn't really mind playing online tournaments and revealing some of his play, even though he's coming into these matches knowing that they are going to be the most important ones of these last few months. So he's shown great shape online. He's just won the VortiX Invitational, beating very, very strong players. He even beat Jack G in there, which these days, if you beat Jack G, you can beat anybody. So that was very impressive to me. And this is very, very hard to predict for me. Both of these players, they are playing so well that I think they're going to scorch the earth. Half of the map is going to go away with them. There's going to be nuclear attacks, and the map is going to be left ravaged.
I like this. I like this a lot. I think the interesting thing from the VortiX Invitational is that VortiX, for the majority of time, after knowing his round of 16 opponents, had to have just been practicing ZVT, ZVT, ZVT. So having gone up against MMA and Jakshi there, all had to feed into that he was only really practicing this matchup properly so that he could appear here and do very well for himself. So things have lined up nicely, I would say.
I don't think he knew for a long time. Like, it was announced.
Well, we did the draw, and then he's known since then.
Yeah,
So-
I thought you were talking for the VortiX.
Oh, no.
Because he was playing me early.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he didn't prepare for that.
No.
And it was
Sorry.
fine anyway.
Well, so VortiX now is in a very good position here in this group, I feel, having only had to practice against Terrans. But as these guys already mentioned on our analysis desk, MMA did beat VortiX in that season 3-0. Now, since then, results have looked a little bit different between these two guys.
Yeah, the last two encounters were won by VortiX. Close games, though. 3-2 and 2-1. So these guys, proving my point here, when they play each other, they really go toe-to-toe.
Yeah.
Or, as I said in the first season, mouse-to-mouse, keyboard-to-keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
That horrible joke has come back.
No.
VortiX is known as the Kukara chaser. How likely do you think it is here that we might see someone? And I like how MMA has like no chance to understand what I just said.
No, true.
Everybody gets it except him.
Oh, poor guy. He doesn't like understand the English too well, so you just like say it in Spanish and all's good. I don't know. The thing is that VortiX can bring a different game to every single game that is played. We saw him during the VortiX Invitational in the final, bringing a different build to each game. So very, very varied. I'm completely understanding as to why MMA got rid of Daedalus Point and Altazim Stronghold. Two big maps can be very difficult for him to defend against a player like VortiX, who can bring so much aggression to the table if he wants. So I'm not surprised by those vetoes all here going into this.
VortiX, I guess you could say unpredictable man, because he's able to play a lot of styles. He can play Zergling Muta very well. We've seen how successful he can be with Roaches. He's pulled some all-ins here and there. On Pole, I have to remember that game versus Jack G on Polar Nights, where he did the one-base bending. I actually asked him about this. I asked him what motivated you to do that. Did you think he was going to go for 3 commensurate? You thought you could punish him, which was the case in the end? And he just told me that. He said, I decided beforehand that I was going to go for that no matter what, try my chance. And I told myself, even before doing it, that if I lost, it would be no big deal, because it's just one thing that you try one time, and then if you lose, it doesn't really matter, because you know you're going to try something special. That's a really good mindset to have.
Yeah.
Everybody has evolved so much after playing the game for so long, playing in so many tournaments. VortiX was a Warcraft player before. He has gone a long way. Can you imagine going to a series, being able to tell yourself, I'm going to try that, if it doesn't work, then fine, I'll just move on and focus on the next game. It really takes tremendous amount of focus and strength to be able to do that.
And let us not forget, the MMA, though, is our reigning champion here of WCS Europe. He won Season 3. He is that guy that a lot of people looking at, it's like, well, you won the last series, so now you also need to step it up and win another title. Otherwise, you're just going backwards. That's not good. We saw that MMA here has 90% against Zergs in WCS games so far. That means he's won 9-1 against Zergs. He doesn't really lose to Zergs a whole lot. But then you have another player on the other side here of VortiX. He's 82% in WCS games. He's 9-2. One of those losses was against MMA. But one thing's for sure is that both players are at their real height and peak in terms of this matchup at the moment. And I won't expect anything other than fantastic fireworks in this series.
I really like where StarCraft is at. I mean, practice-wise for these pro gamers, you know you're going to go into this tournament as the most important tournament. And you practice a lot for it, but then you still play online tournaments. You don't you skip on streaming a lot, obviously, because you don't want to reveal anything at all, even if you were to just mess around on stream. And these players, when they played tournaments recently, in particular VortiX, he knew that MMA was watching that. So is there a chance he held back? It didn't look so. It looked like he was just trying to play his best and win then and there and try to build himself some confidence. And how much confidence he's going to have after having won a very, very tough tournament recently, going into this match against MMA? I'm guessing a lot. But MMA is the one who most likely gained some quite good information from that tournament. So every position, every situation has pros and cons.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
There was already the same thing in Warcraft 3, actually. In Warcraft 3, Grubby was this guy who, instead of being super secretive about his practice, he played every single weekly cup and he won all of them. And then you would have thought that because everybody had seen his strategy, everybody had seen how he played, they would counter him in tournaments and won. No. He won the big tournaments as well that he went to. So now it's a similar scenario for VortiX here, who just played an online tournament, showed a lot of his play versus Tian, showed a lot of brilliance, but revealed what he was up to. And MMA is the guy that has had the chance to analyze and who's going to try to come up with a solution here to this.
It's going to be interesting. It really is. I have been looking forward to this series for weeks and weeks now after we had that draw, and we're going to be getting into it very, very soon. Our first map is Yonsu, a map that stylistically for VortiX can show tendencies of aggression. We've seen him on these smaller maps just say, well, it's YOLO time, man. I'm going to go for that bust. I'm going to go straight for the kill very, very quickly. But that's the dangerous thing about VortiX. Not only is he able to bring that to the table, but he can also go for that long, long, big macro game. MMA is going to have to hunker down here, I feel, in game number 1 and really just greet anything that comes to him, because VortiX could happily mix it up and just go for the aggression. Let's get into it. Game number 1 here on Yonsu as VortiX and MMA battle one another to find out who's going to move on to the winner's match to play against MVP. All right, spawn down to the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Zerg. Representing Mouse Sports, it's VortiX. And up to the top right-hand corner, the current reigning champion of the World Championship Series, Europe Premier League, representing Acer, it's MMA.
You know, I mentioned earlier that I think that these two players are ranked 1 and 2 on ladder right now. That's because they are barcodes. And as much as I'm pretty sure about VortiX's, I'm not sure about MMA's, but I think... So can you imagine how well they are playing right now? The European ladder has never been this competitive. We have guys like MC living in Europe, playing consistently on the ladder. A lot of Koreans actually moved to Europe. A while back, I would have thought this wasn't going to happen, but now we have a lot of Koreans moving to Europe and practicing there. And look, apparently MMA, after all these games, this is what he thinks is going to be best against somebody like VortiX. As I said, he's had the chance to study him a lot. Does he think that VortiX is being overly greedy a lot of the time? VortiX is going to go for the pull first here.
I mean, technically, this is a clever play by MMA, considering the direction that we're seeing VortiX's first Overlord move across the map. So it's kind of out of the way of where that would go. It's not really in range of any watchtowers. It's not in the easiest of scouting positions, but VortiX opening up with the spawning pool first he should be okay against something like this.
But okay, I have one thing to say about MMA's double racks. It is one of the meanest I've ever seen.
Mean.
I don't see a better word to say it. I've had to face his double racks. I've had to face his depot plus racks in base. On this map, he micros his Marines like nobody else. He knows how to place every unit perfectly, how to pull SCVs back, let them tank and all that. So even if he was to be spotted here, which, by the way, he sent the SCV out at an interesting timing. Oh, and VortiX saw one of the SCVs move out. He's going to see possibly another one here right now in a second. Did he see that SCV at the ramp? I'm not sure. VortiX might be able to realize here soon what he's up against. Look, he sent some drones to the expansion. I think he knows already.
He's playing as carefully as possible. He just doesn't want anything crazy going on at this point. He saw the top of the ramp, saw nothing there other than a supply depot. Has to be wary of what's going on now. Already has a few more Zerglings on the way. 6 in total.
Drones are chasing SCVs and a Marine.
He just wants to keep an eye on it. And he saw where the Marine was coming from and where it's fleeing back to, so he has to now have some kind of indication as to where this is coming from MMA.
Does MMA abort? Does he go into a command center? He's sending SCVs back. I think he's He might start a command center, but still get a whole bunch of Marines out to try and pressure and force units out of VortiX, which he's already achieved. Oh, VortiX is going to have to react very quickly.
Oh, going to lose a few Zerglings here if he's not careful. Wants to keep every single one alive. Loses 4 for no Marines. That's a big deal, but he's got 2 Queens started up here, so that's going to certainly be able to tank a lot with those. But he does have to replenish some of these Zerglings as well, so it's going blow for blow.
Did you see those Marines shoot while they were actually moving? It was pretty sick.
Down the ramp? It's pretty good. It's MMA's control, man, as you said.
Yes, some great moving shots here. Spine's going to start here, but a lot of Marines out there. He's going to macro them very, very well, too, if Lynx were to chase them. So VortiX is going to try to buy some time. He's even sending a second Queen to reinforce with this.
Absolutely has to. He needs that Spine Crawler to finish, but the Marines know that as well, so they're trying to find a position to actually pressure that down, but that's too many Zerglings, too many Queens in total for him to try and really get there, but good control still here from MMA, gunning down as many of those Zerglings as possible. Only saves 4 Marines in the end. That's not enough to pressure 2 Queens and a Spine.
Who the hell needs Steam Pack, man?
3 Queens.
MMA goes forward with Marines, and as I said, he forced units, he forced the Spine. 3 Queens are down the ramp, so that means there is no one in the main right now for VortiX. He has to start a 4th one, and he's traded what should have been a deficit early on quite well, and he's kept up economy-wise when he possibly wouldn't have been able to if he hadn't done as well. He's going to go for the 3rd command center, and Wolof is natural.
And also he added on double gas behind this, so he could happily go mech from here, could MMA, interestingly enough.
The son of Boxer, man. This is something I would expect to see out of Boxer.
Okay, so he's adding the tech lab on with this barracks at the front as well, so just trying to get that stem out where he can. So normally, you know, sometimes you do see these barracks being placed in the walls and then eventually transitioning onto mech, but this kind of leads more towards with that tech lab, just to go for the stem.
You know what's going to be good for VortiX other than the economy in this game? He's already on 33 drones against 22 SCVs, by the way. It's going to be the crisp spread. There is no Reaper, no Hellion to basically deny the crisp spread at all. And look at VortiX, how much work he's doing already with that crisp spread. That's really going to help. I mean, as much as he's going to be up against a lot of units and 3 command centers, if he's able to reach halfway through the middle of the map before the fight begins, is going to help a lot.
And you know, the wall just in general here from MMA makes a huge amount of sense when it comes to what he's a player that he's playing against. A player that has a lot of aggressive tendencies, and look what he's doing. He's throwing down the Baneling Nest, he's getting Zerglings on the way as well. MMA knows his opponent, he knows he has to defend as quickly as possible. That's why he's got that wall down there, so that he can try and hold on against an opponent that is gonna hit really, really hard.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. I thought VortiX was definitely gonna go for some economy here, but getting 24 Zerglings.
You know what's really scary? The fact that because that tech lab's in the wall, he could hit this before Stim even finishes and kill the tech lab and deny Stim.
Well, is it really in the wall though? Like
well, I mean, those Banelings, I think Banelings in between there will do some damage to it. We'll see though. We'll see as this gets on further.
He like makes a depot between the 2 barracks to protect that.
Oh, the Reaper! It spotted the Baneling Nest. It did spot the Baneling Nest, and it spots the layer as well.
Does he realize he's getting a tank right now? That's definitely going to help.
Yeah.
But he's only getting Marines out of 2 barracks. Starport's actually about to finish, but he's only going to be able to make medivacs.
It was a fake. It was a fake. The Reaper saw the layer morphing in, and now he cancelled the gases as well. He's morphing in 10 Banelings. That Reaper still does not see this aggressive move here from him. This could be really scary. He knows something's happening, though.
Steam Pack could be cancelled just before finishing here. And only 1 bunker.
Uh-oh, where's the siege tank? It needs to be out here right now. Those Banelings going to crash on forwards. That tech lab does end up falling down. It's also a hole in the wall. That 1 siege tank got a few of those Banelings, but that's a lot of Zerglings flooding on through here for VortiX, trying to kill off his opponent right here, right now. There's very, very few Marines left, only 2. That 1 siege tank is the saving grace. It needs to stay alive. It needs to do damage. It needs to save the barracks, but he doesn't keep them alive.
Yeah, MMA needs to re-wall ASAP if he wants to be able to stay alive here. Again, Steam Pack being cancelled is the biggest of deals here. He's going to remake a barracks, repair the other one, and he's held for now, but he's lost 10 SCVs in total in this game. Oh, 3 cancelled. What? Oh, he didn't have space for the... Wow, that's... Again, he lost a little bit of time here, which could be a big deal. VortiX behind this has remade a lot of Zerglings. I think he was going to go for follow-up with a lot of Zerglings and to keep on attacking, but he realized that his opponent was walled off, so he's going to abort for now. Or do you think he gets Banelings and goes for more? I think not, because double Evo.
Yeah, I think he has to fall back from it. I mean, he might go for a little bit of a poke, but other than that, he realizes that he committed a lot of his lava to that and thus didn't have that many drones behind it. After all was said and done, it was like 33 drones to 36 SCVs. So despite getting 10 kills, he didn't really do the full damage that he wanted to. And now MMA, he's got the tech advantage in essence, so he can start pressuring here with these medevacs.
And he's got his favorite unit here. He's going to fly around with it and start dropping some units, even some tanks actually. He's not even keeping those back at home.
Well, he's going to put them on the 4th and just try and shell down from the 3rd by the looks of things and use it as support fire for the Marines on the low ground or the lower ground if he wants to. It's a really annoying position to break here.
VortiX did not anticipate that. He could have taken down the rocks with all those links that he had. Well, it would have taken a while, I guess, too, but this is going to be really annoying.
This is a great move by MMA.
He's even making far away from finishing, too.
Yeah, it's so hard for him to clean up, so hard for him to mine from that 3rd base as well. So VortiX is now stuck between a rock and a hard place. He has to take another base somewhere else.
Well, he's actually stuck between minerals and rocks. But at this point, it's a tough position. VortiX is just going to re-expand on the other side, and I'm guessing get a few. But look at his gas. He doesn't even have the gas to get a bunch of mutas and get rid of this. Obviously, there is a turret there. There is medivacs. There is marines. This was so nicely. I think if MMA hadn't done this, he would have fallen quite far behind, because look at the creep spread as well.
Yeah.
If he attacks at the front, he is spotted from the middle of the map.
And the drone count, the recuperation that we saw from VortiX was okay as well. He was at 60 workers to 50 during this whilst having that 3rd base worth of economy. So this move from MMA is brilliant. Meanwhile, though, we see that VortiX did spot all of the production from MMA behind this. So he knows his opponent's capabilities. Yeah. But one thing, you've mentioned it already, is this creep spread. It's not being held back from MMA, which is something that he normally keeps an eye on and keeps pinned down. I
love that VortiX made pneumatized carapace, by the way, and sent some overlords on the corners of the map, because he's going to be able to spot all the medivac. I mean, he's up against MMA. If you don't prepare for medivacs, you haven't done your homework.
Yeah.
And actually, is he barely going to miss that medivac here? He needs to see that coming to make sure he can defend well. He has his Zerglings not too far away, so he should be fine.
Muta's on the way, but his Muta production has been slowed down so much because he really hasn't done anything at that 3rd base.
Only 6 Mutas.
And that Widow Mine gets 2 Zerglings, and that's it. So, not the most effective of Widow Mines there, as VortiX was on top of it.
I like how that creep spread is knocking on the doors of that 3rd base of MMA. It's like almost there.
He's been really active with it. But the supply counts right now are looking good for MMA. I mean, his shutdown of that 3rd base, his opponent had been forced to go elsewhere. Tries to clean that up, but yeah, that's not easy.
In his Broodlords, man.
I love that he brings an SCV with that just out on the missile turrets. It makes it so hard to deal with that entrenched location. Look how much is not happening at that 3rd base. And he's clearing up this creep as well, which is an absolute necessity. You cannot let it keep going like that. But VortiX still, with Lingbane Muta, is very, very powerful, so you've still got to be careful as MMA.
Yeah, I really like that VortiX is taking that left-hand side base. I'm a little bit surprised that he didn't try to walk on those rocks a little bit more, but I guess he has to be very aware of whatever drops might hit him, and he has to keep his units in the middle of the map to make sure he doesn't get caught off guard. And that drop on the top left-hand side, could he get a cancel on that hatchery? It would be a good win here for MMA. Who's actually, VortiX has caught up quite nicely on supply here, but he's still getting drones at this point.
The Mutas can't really find any angles to push in from. He's going to try and move in with a lot of these Zerglings, though, as well as the Banelings, to push this away and make sure that this creep can continue on, but no such luck. MMA's well situated here.
I can't believe that's contained with tanks and turrets is still there.
It's brilliant.
It's like super hard to get rid of. You cannot trade cost effectively unless you get rid of the rocks, I guess, and then send in a whole bunch of Zerglings.
Yeah, and as a supply committal, it's really not a whole lot. What, 2 siege tanks, and that's really about it. But for now, though, a drop on the left-hand side at that 4th base. Meanwhile, he's actually pushing through to the Sugo 3rd again here, and could easily deny that. But again, no operations have been there for a while. If he does deny that, it's just lava loss.
Oh, and that hatchery is going to be sniped on the bottom right-hand side in the meantime by MMA.
Oh, nice connection with the Banelings, though, in the middle of the map there. That's good for VortiX, but he does lose his hatchery, loses that production capability. Going to try and clean up the drop on this left-hand side up to the top as well, and does get the medevac, but MMA is not done yet down to the bottom.
Sniping some overlords there with some... I guess it was okay to use Steam Pack for this. He can even pick up and leave if he gets in trouble, but the Mutas are coming. He knows that he times the boost pretty well here to escape and rejoin those turrets. This is like, how would you call this? It's like an enemy base across the map where he has like turrets and tanks, and like he can just regroup there, make sure he's... Yeah, an outpost.
It's the outpost of MMA.
Perfect word.
He is set up so well there. And I feel for VortiX, you know, unless he really gets that base up to the top left, really running a nice snipe out on some of these medevacs and some of those units, that's what VortiX needs. Unless he gets that base fully up and running to the top left-hand corner, he's going to have a hard time in this game as MMA's macro is continuing on. He's going to finish +2 too, and he's going to start 3-3, which is really going to boost up MMA here.
Yeah, with the 2-2 about to finish for MMA, even though he's a little bit behind on supply, he's well set up with Widow Mines burrowed everywhere. So as much as he doesn't take a really bad fight, kind of like he did earlier, I think he's going to be okay. But he needs to be careful. He makes one wrong move, he steps on creep and gets flanked and loses everything. He loses the game, I think, because VortiX, he's still on he's on 87 drones. Can you believe that? Across 4 bases.
A lot of his supply is in that. Meanwhile, the MMA is actually split up quite heavily, so VortiX is going to try and exploit that as best as he possibly can do, killing off a bit of this army over to the left-hand side, tries to fly and catch the siege tank as well, catches a lot of bio on the low ground. He's dividing and conquering as best as he can do. MMA is trying to rendezvous with a lot of this, and he got a lot of Widow Mines, a lot of Banelings with that one Widow Mine down to the south, tries to pursue on again. Mutalisks catching or trying to catch those medevacs, but MMA gets out of there.
I think MMA overextended a little bit here for a second, but it's actually not going to go all that bad. He moved down the ramp, he's teamed with another pack of units when he could have just pulled back, let the Widow Mines do their work to protect the army. And it's interesting how those 2 tanks and 3 turrets are still there, and there's no way for VortiX to go back and defend, because otherwise he gets attacked across the map, and MMA is going to press forward.
He finds a lot of the Banelings morphing in. There's really not a whole lot of them, only 15 in total, but there aren't that many Widow Mines there to be able to deal with that either. A few of those Marines do end up falling to that, but not enough ground support for those Mutalisks to continue on the fight.
Thor is here, and first Thor is going to enter the field. MMA is going for 3-3. It's interesting how MMA, he hasn't gone for a forced command center, by the way. He's committed to this aggression here. He's going to try to do a lot more damage and possibly end the game before taking a fourth. Because look, he's mined out in his main, doesn't have many minerals in his natural. He's committed so much to this, and he's going to have to win a fight here.
And this is the perfect time for VortiX to try and take a fight before 3-3 is even anywhere near done. But at the same time, is he able to actually break through a lot of these Marines? There's not that many of them left. If the Banelings can get the connections up to the north, that would be great. He does get some on the right-hand side, cleans up the Marines on the left as well. And now VortiX is 60 supply up.
What is going on? MMA is long-distance mining on the top left-hand side here. Does he not realize he doesn't have the command center there? This is weird. This is not the MMA we were used to see. MMA usually is not afraid of taking a fourth. He always goes for the most upgrades, the most bases, the most macro-heavy games you can ever see. But now I think he just realized he had too much of a disadvantage to overcome to try and take a fourth in this position. It would have been too hard to defend it against the Mutas, so he just press forward, but VortiX defense has been too good.
And VortiX realizes during all of this time how many bases MMA is on. So I think he feels if he just keeps making Banelings, he can't really have that much more income behind all of this power. He has the Mutalist numbers he needs. If he just gets Banelings, just gets some detonations on these Marines, he could win a fight pretty easily as long as it's in a good position. He's actually going to go for it once again, though, as those Banelings try and find a good angle on it. It's not very good at all. Oh, no! Banelings... trying... Oh my god. Let's go. Banelings actually catching a lot of this. During it, it's going to have to be a radio cast for now as those Banelings continue to move on forwards here, catching a lot of the Marines, but they did stim back as best they could do. VortiX now still laying waste to quite a lot of this. And the Mutalisks do get pushed out, but that was a lot of damage done once again.
Yeah, and VortiX has secured another base on the top left-hand side. He says, you know what, I'm going to give up on the bottom right-hand side base because you have tanks there. He's getting dropped in his natural right now, but going to be able to defend that quite easily, supposedly. I love the way he's played this entire game, man.
Yeah, it was looking a little bit shaky at the beginning, but VortiX is still doing very, very well. The drones being transferred will get picked off, but now there's only still 26 Marines against these 9 Banelings. The Marines are very well split up, though, so don't really take a whole lot of damage for that, but the Zerglings flood on forward. It's still only 2-2 against 3-3, but it doesn't matter as VortiX has overwhelming numbers, overwhelming superiority. GG for game number 1, as VortiX will take it here. What a game.
I never thought I'd see the day where MMA will say, I'm not going to expand anymore. I'm just going to attack because this guy is out-macroing me. He's outdoing me completely in this game. And even though he was able to do some good damage with that one drop in the tanks, it seemed like VortiX never really cared. He took bases on the other side. He kept on. What I'm most impressed about, and what I guess I've seen before from somebody like Snoot, is how many drones he got. Even though he knew he was about to be under attack, he was confident enough in his defense, in his creep spread to help him spot, and in his overlords that he kept on making drones throughout the entire early game. up until he had up to 87. That's a ridiculous amount if you think about it.
It just gives him the power behind it to constantly replenish the banelings as much as he can do. And noticeably, I wouldn't be surprised if we went back into that replay and saw very few Mutalisks actually die during that. He did get a few siege tank snipes off there, but keeping that Mutalist retention high means you can always continue replenishing those banelings and making it very hard for the ground to ever gain momentum there for MMA. It really felt like MMA there, with that 3-base setup, had a lot of confidence in his 3-3 eventually kicking in and trying to overrun his opponent.
I think it was more the 2-2 timing that killed him, where he didn't take the fight good enough to be able... Like, if he had traded a little bit better, he didn't even have to win the fight, just trade a little bit better. But as you say, the Mutas staying alive, not pulling a revival here.
No. No. Oh, those poor Mutas.
I bet MMA wishes this had happened in this game.
Well, there was a moment actually in that game where I thought that it could happen, because something you see a lot from Zerg players is the Mutalist being grouped with one Overseer, trying to fly and snipe around one Widowmine or two, but there was 3 Widowmines at that 3rd base.
You think if Terrence now realize that they're very far behind, they try to go specifically for that move? It's like, when behind, don't Dark Shrine, just put Widowmines.
Just 5 Widowmines in the same place, man, go. And hope for the best. Hope they try and snipe one of them and realize they're out 5 there. But now let's get into game number 2. VortiX leads 1-0 here against MMA. VortiX has won the past 2 encounters. Can he make it a 3rd, as we have spawning up to the right-hand corner? Currently 1 game up, representing Mouse Sports. It is VortiX. Looking confident. And up to the top left-hand corner, we have our blue Terran representing Acer. He is MMA.
You know, this was a really good game these 2 guys played, but it's not quite the game I had expected. Like, I mean, from the start, we had action, huge pressure put on by VortiX, who tried to gain a great advantage or end the game quickly. Wasn't able to pull it off. Wasn't able to kill MMA quickly, but he got the lead, and then from there MMA came back. But I expected MMA to play this differently. I guess a few more drops, a 4th base for sure. I'm actually in shock still that he did not choose to go for something like a 4th base. But I guess with the situation he was in, with the Crispad being middle of the map, with the huge Muta cloud that was flying around, maybe he was afraid that it wasn't going to work out. He would have needed a lot of turrets everywhere. He didn't want to make them, so he committed to more aggression. But VortiX's mix, how many drones he's made, how many Mutas he made, how many Banelings he never made. He made a lot, but he never made, for example, like only Banelings and like 0 Zerglings. He always had like a perfect mix of everything, and that just worked out very, very well for him in the end. That was a little bit of Scarlet-esque play, I guess you could say to some extent, where you get a lot of Mutas and then Banelings in support, and MMA just wasn't able to make it work. Even that one Thor couldn't change things.
Poor little guy. I think in the end...
little guy.
Okay, he's quite big. I think in the end, crisis management is something that is very, very strong when it comes to VortiX. It's one of his fortes. And we could here in game number 2 see something like, you know, a high economy Baneling bust once again from VortiX. It's something that he's, you know, had in his repertoire for quite a while. We saw the attempt at it during that previous game, but at the same time it might be a little bit too predictable. He's just setting himself up at the beginning stages to deal with anything like a Reaper that will be coming along, and he knows it's on the way, I should think.
If you had to find a Korean twin to VortiX's gameplay, who would you say? Like, for example, I'm going to give you some suggestions. Curious, Sulky.
I would have said Lenok
really?
quite a bit ago. I don't know if you agree with that, or even the past performances of Violet really stand out to me as 2 players that really strike kind of parallels with a player like VortiX. But those 2 kind of fell off favor a little bit, I would say. So do you have anyone in your mind that...
Well, I mean, with the way he's playing, I mean, I play Protoss. With the way he's playing now, you will still say the players you just mentioned?
From a past era, yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, there's so many good Korean Zergs right now that have so many tools on their belt. But
to be honest, even in Europe, we've always had very strong Zerg representation, with Stefano being the best foreigner, Nurcho being very high up there. Now we have Snoot and we have VortiX, so I guess it's those foreigner Zergs, man. They're doing very well. You have Scarlet also as one of the best out there.
Dude, VortiX is looking great right now. He's looking really, really good.
That's more like it. 3rd CC, on location.
Balls of steel, my friend, but the Zerglings...
Any second CC is going to get cancelled.
No, run away!
Well, not cancelled, but delayed a little bit at least.
The SCV is going down
Actually,
to that third.
there is no Marines in production. Oh, he could have gotten up the ramp.
Oh, you
The buildings were being swapped, the factory and the barracks. He could have actually gotten in there. What are you doing, Ling? Attack the... Yeah, okay, he's going to get the SCV here, maybe.
That's MMA leading that SCV, that Zergling down there. I thought he may end up spotting that. At least he sees the tech route of his opponent, but he still hasn't seen the third base. That Overlord down to the south, is it going to swing around there, or is it just going... It will eventually spot that third base.
You know, this is literally balls of steel, because remember on this map what VortiX did versus Jaggi? The Baneling bust.
Yeah.
And as much as now there was a second hatchery and he knew this couldn't be some kind of one-base Baneling, it would have been very dangerous if VortiX had identified very early on what he was up against here and had adapted, because right now he has no idea. And I think he should be able to see that third CC soon with his Overlord. And his reaction is gonna... oh, wow. He already gets the Ro16.
Yeah.
Does he plan this blindly, or does he get this for defense? I guess no matter what, upon seeing that third command center, he's going to have a choice to make, and it's going to be interesting to see which one it takes, which road it takes. Keep in mind that CC could be lifted up and evacuate.
This could prompt him, though. This certainly could prompt to go for the aggression. He's only got one Overlord in production right now, but Double Evolution Chamber has gone down. Yeah. So it's a bit more towards the macro. Maybe this is just for the defense here against the Hellions.
And also keep in mind, MMA knows that VortiX knows.
Wait a minute.
He saw that the Overlord saw the third command center, so he's like, is he maybe thinking about an all-in? I should be careful against that. He's having seen the Ro16. Maybe VortiX hopes that MMA overcommits to defense, in which case he just gets a lot of economy himself and gets ahead, which in this situation could be the right move. But MMA is not flinching. He's not getting a lot of defense. He's not focusing on getting a lot of units out right now.
Baneling Nest.
He's gonna add his barracks. Wow, these guys they are outdoing or trying to outdo each other so much right now. So many small decisions, time after time.
Yeah, this looks like just this proper Roach Baneling push straight through the middle. He's the thing is like, oh yeah, you can get a few roaches for the sprinkling of the defense, but he's gone up to like 11 roaches now.
And when I say so many small decisions, I actually mean so many small decisions, which are in fact big decisions, because they could be game ending at this point. VortiX, I really like the push he did in previous game. He's gonna go for another push here with the 2 evolution chambers up. I wonder if he wanted to fake an attack. If he wanted MMA to get up there, see the double evo, and be thinking, well, you know what, this is upgrade, I'm safe. In this case, MMA didn't see the 2 evos, so he has no idea. But somehow, it doesn't look like he's preparing too much for a defense here. And some links went around, by the way. On the top hand side, those are going to be for Banelings morphed nearby. I love this move.
And VortiX pushing through the middle now. The Hellions have spotted these roaches, so he knows impending doom is on the way. He has to throw down a lot. But one thing's also for sure, he needs to abandon that third base location and run away for dear life, because he's not going to be holding that anytime soon. So here come the Banelings.
Let the CC on the ramp.
Oh wait, he's already got them morphed in. Those bunkers might not be done in time here if he actually breaks on through. Well, that bunker at the first needs to be repaired as quickly as possible, but it's going to fall down. More Banelings walk forwards. He doesn't have really a whole lot to do with this. He has
the Baneling control is most important here.
He wants to try and get into there as quickly as possibly can do. Doesn't really kill off a huge amount of those Hellions, but they are now falling to these roaches. That one Marauder at the top holding on for dear life. Baneling's behind it. This kind of caught him behind it all. And he's catching a lot of these SCVs. He's already killed off 15 in total. He needs to bring in a lot more Lings to actually reinforce and push down. He doesn't have clear reconstitution. Roaches aren't going to be a factor when it comes to reinforcing, but he breaks into the production line. This could be scary. MMA has to do a lot here.
Knock, knock. Who's there? Cucarachas and Zerglings.
Oh, GG. VortiX takes the series 2-0. And this is what you got to be careful of this man. The absolute killer instinct that we see from VortiX shines through here in the first series of the day for him.
The Cucarachas, man. I'm glad we saw them in a ZVT. VortiX is so good right now.
Yeah.
I would go as far as saying that what he said before, he either gets to the finals or win a season is actually possible. Like seeing, this was some of the most impressive play that I've seen in a while in this matchup. Even his games versus Jaggi were impressive, but this, it just stomped MMA, man.
And let's not forget, MMA is the previous WCS champion. This guy just beat him 2-0. So that's a pretty good result for VortiX, but he has had his number over the past couple of series.
I think the next, the winner's match is going to answer a lot of questions too, because we have MVP who's in such a great shape, who destroyed his first opponent, and now again, another guy who destroyed his first opponent is VortiX. Imagine what kind of confidence the winner of that is going to have. These guys are titans, man.
And for I mean, we were saying that MMA and VortiX are on top of their game in these respective matchups, but you've also got to remember that MVP is the guy that we saw him against Zergs in the round of 32 and how dominating he looked with his mech play. Yeah. But even during the past seasons as well of WCS, he's currently like 10-2 against Zergs in WCS
I thought that the clash of the titans here was going to be MMA VortiX, but I think it's going to be MVP VortiX.
Yeah, I think as well. It could completely outshine the series that we've seen there. But one thing's for sure is that MVP is going to have looked at this series right now and said, oh, well, that's what you're up to. I see all of this aggression. But that's not to say that VortiX can't play out the longer game like we saw in game number 1 after a few slips and slides throughout that map on Yonsu.
VortiX is quickly rising to really being one of the very, very best foreigners here. I think if he goes very far in this tournament, he could be starting to be considered. I mean, already winning an online tournament recently, which was very, very tough to win.
Yeah.
That's already put him out there in these days as one of the guys that's in super shape. And now with that very impressive win, I'm very impressed personally. Yeah. You know, because also when I met him in that VortiX tournament, which was the second round, I didn't really know what to expect out of him. I knew he was practicing for WCS, which meant a lot of ZVT. I didn't know how good he was against Protoss. He stomped me 10 times harder than he just beat MMA.
All right, well, let's find out what the winner has to say. Moving on to the next match here. I'm going to go up against MVP. Let's hand it over to Mouse VortiX.
VortiX, congratulations. Fabulous game from you. My own mind, we set this one up as being a really tough game for both of you. You're both at the top of your form. You're both playing very well. But actually, that was pretty straightforward. Why?
I guess winning him 2 days ago in an online cup in VortiX gave me like a lot of confidence going into macro games versus him. So, you know, when you go into a match like thinking, okay, if I play macro, it's okay. If I play cheese, it's okay too. It just, I don't know, I just felt kind of confident going against him, and it turned out pretty well, apparently.
Yeah, it did. Did you worry at all about the fact that you had played him and maybe he kept something back? Because you players, you do keep stuff back sometimes when you're playing them, and you know in your mind you're going to be playing them again. So were you worried about that at all? Maybe it would surprise you?
Well, the thing is that I had also kept some things for myself. Okay. Like, I didn't use like my real buildings. Like, as you could see on the first game here, I opened pool first, which is something I didn't do the other day. Just to, you know, trick him a bit, to make him think that maybe he could proxy rocks me and then get the 15 pool in his face. And so I wasn't like really worried, because at the end I know that I had also kept things for myself, and it would be a surprise factor.
What is the difference for you? I mean, last year we said that you had a very consistent year, but not a spectacular year. You've had a number of 3-4 finishes over the last 2 years, and it seems like, you know, WCS Europe in 2012 is a long time ago now, but you were second there, and you just seemed like you were about to explode and start winning some big tournaments. Why do you think that hasn't happened for you yet?
I guess throughout last year, I was focusing a lot on just playing games and playing more and more games. And, you know, starting in like January or February this year, I kind of started to play a bit less and start to analyze other players and their strategies and so on. And I guess I kind of improved a lot in that way, because my buildings weren't so correct last year. And also, I don't know, I kind of somehow found motivation again at the beginning of this year, because I had been like very unmotivated with StarCraft 2. But yeah, everything seems to be getting better for me right now. We'll see if I can keep it.
Okay, MVP's next, another Terran. Has it helped you mentally to prepare for this game, and both in practice as well, to be able to just concentrate on ZVT? I mean, you're already very good at ZVT, but just being able to concentrate on that, does that help?
Well, I think MVP has like a very particular style of play, and I don't know, the way he plays mech is, I haven't seen it in any European player, so I don't know if I'm ready for it, but I guess so. I mean, I've been doing really good in CVT lately, and anything could happen, I guess.
I mean, from the 6 games that he's played so far, he's got mech every game, so that's predictable, right?
Yeah, and also, yeah, I mean, Ro16, I think he made mech every game, but he might be playing tricks right there.
We'll find out very shortly. Thank you very much, VortiX. VortiX is through to the upper bracket final in Group A, and we'll play MVP next. Don't go too far away. We're going to take a quick break, but don't forget, you can still get your predictions in. Make sure you send us your tweets. They might even feature on the show as well. Make sure you include the hashtag #WCS. One half of the Spanish Armada is through to the upper bracket finals. We'll see how he gets on in our next game.